Hey everybody, it's Ken Davenport. It's Tuesday. It's 8 o'clock here on the East Coast, and that means it's time for another episode of the Producer's Perspective Live. Tonight, the Tony-nominated star of Hair, Les Mis, and Murder Ballad. Remember that one? Mr. Will Swenson up next. Hit it, Mary.
We're getting the band back together, getting the boys who rock again. We're getting the band back together, rocking the waves of a place that remembers when some punks from the suburbs lit the sky with too much reverb. We're getting the band back together.
Hello, everybody. It's Ken Davenport here, coming to you live from my office in Times Square. We've changed locations. Hello, Alan. How are you? Hi, everybody who's watching from wherever you are watching from. Throw some locations. Give me some states. Give me some countries. Anyone from Australia? Your count is very low. It's your case count. So I hope I hope everyone's there. Actually, I hope everyone's there. So there's Megan. So excited for this. We got a Will Swenson fan in Megan. Kevin from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Drew. We all know Drew's from Baltimore. Drew's still from Baltimore. Drew hanging on with us since the very beginning. Welcome back, Drew. Thanks so much for being here. Hello, Benny. Benny, I just sent you an email. Moments ago, I just sent you an email. Missy from Cincinnati. Christina from Pennsylvania. Polka. I don't know what that is. Look at all these people from all over the place. That's right. We have a big-time Broadway star, and that's what happens. Mike Lockey shows up from Wenatchee, Washington, and Cheryl from Plymouth, Michigan. Utah's in the house. Renee from West Virginia. This is crazy. Not a single New Yorker is here. Not a single New Yorker, because the New Yorkers are still too afraid to even check out live streams, I guess. Anyway, welcome back to all of you. Thanks so much for being here. And thanks for being here from all over. It just goes to show you that Broadway isn't about one specific city. It's about this whole country, and we're going to get this. We're going to get this industry back on its feet as fast as we can. So thanks for being here tonight and keeping the virtual light on for Broadway. If you missed last week's episode and you have any interest in playwriting, in screenwriting, in just being a better human, go back and check out Matthew Lopez's live stream from last week. It's a very inspiring and insightful live stream from one of the most celebrated writers writing today for the theater. Of course, his incredible The Inheritance. But it's a wonderful, wonderful story about a guy who didn't go to playwriting school and then has written one of what's been called the greatest American play of the century. Yeah. And he's just a humble, nice guy as well. So go ahead and check that out. And check out all of our replays. We've got over 70 episodes of this sucker, and we are going strong. What else is going on? Next week, we'll talk about next week. Leah Salonga is up next week in a special live, but to tape recorded version because she's in the Philippines, and it's a different time zone over there. I think it's actually 2021. They've had the vaccine. They're all good now. It's all great. They're so far ahead of us. They actually are ahead of us, I think. All those countries are ahead of us. So so tune in next week. There's some fun surprises there, including finding out that Leia is a gamer. So next week at 8 o'clock, our 8 o'clock, check that out. Last week, I was walking through Times Square, and I walked by the Longacre Theater, and I almost walked straight into the Diana bubble. So check this photo out. This is me going, oh my gosh, there is stuff going on in a Broadway theater. Diana is in tech. I think they taped in 3 days for their Netflix special. You could feel the energy just walking by the theater. So it was exciting to know that people were in there and figuring out a way to be safe and perform musical theater. So that was very exciting. Today we announced, this live streaming stuff has been so fun, and we had Kate Rockwell on. And for those of you who don't know, Kate's also a wine expert. And I had Kate do a special thing for some clients of mine and some friends of mine, a wine tasting virtual event. It went over so big, we said we should just let a whole bunch of other people do this and just launch it. And we're doing that. So Mean Girl Kate Rockwell is going to do a virtual wine tasting event, Wine Tasting 101 with a mean girl. She will not spit in your wine. So we were going to throw the link up or something. Mary's going to do that now. She's nodding. So you can join us. It's like $15. And she will give you Wine Tasting 101. You can buy the wine so you can sip along with her. We're going to have some fun. She's going to have special guests. So go ahead and check that out always to continue to interact with your favorite folks during this period. Speaking of favorite folks, let's just get straight to the star of tonight's episode and the star of many, many shows that are your favorites. Again, Hair, Les Mis, Murder Ballad. I really want to talk about that show because I love that show. Waitress, many more. Please welcome to the live stream, Mr. Will Swenson. Welcome, Will.
Hey, Ken.
How are you?
I'm good, man. How are you?
You know, just living the pandemic dream.
Living the dream. Okay, I've got a few things before we even get started.
Okay. Oh,
This
shit.
is your episode number 73 of this thing?
Yes.
That's impressive.
It's also depressing and impressive. Impressive, but we'll take it.
Have you been doing one a week or sometimes more than that?
Sometimes more than we started every day. When I was like, this is going to be over in 3 weeks, Harry. Let's just do them every single day. And people were really bored and excited to talk. So yeah, every day. And then we switched to weekly.
Man, that's amazing. And your promo is awesome. It's filled with crazy, famous celebrity folks, many of whom are doing crazy antics with you. And to my knowledge, we haven't planned anything with like silly hats or sing-alongs or something. And I feel like I'm missing out on some fun. I'm trying to not hold that against you. I'm sure the craziness will come.
It's all improvisational. It's very, just watch the magic. The magic will happen.
And then, do I have to pay the $15 for Kate Rockwell's wine tasting thing?
Absolutely not. You have to pay $30.
Fair enough. Because I hijacked the evening and no one will learn anything or enjoy anything because we keep smoking and drinking.
Yeah, maybe, who knows? Maybe you are the special guest. You just don't even know it yet because we haven't asked you to do it. How are you? Are you hanging in?
I'm good, dude. Tonight is the first night that I have spent away from my 3-year-old since the pandemic began. And I'm not even in my home. We've taken a road trip and we were on the road all day. And so we're like those parents who, she's 3, she's almost 4. But since the pandemic began, we've just been hunkered down at home trying to be safe. And she hasn't been in preschool. And we finally were like, we need a break or a change of scenery in any way possible. So we hit the road and left her with grandma. And now we're those parents, like with the newborn, we're experiencing it all over. Is she going to be okay? We're calling. She's like, is she breathing? Is she breathing? She's 4.
Do you have like grandma cam, like where she sleeps in her bedroom? So are you watching from where you are? Like, oh,
yeah, the poor kid is like closed circuit upbringing. Yeah. He doesn't know it, but it's pathetic. Yeah, we are totally.
I have it too. This is going to be a parenting live stream just for all of you watching out there. We're not talking about Broadway at all. So I have a 2.5-year-old, and this has been a thing because we've been around the kids so much. That now there's all this concern that separation will be harder because the kids will be around.
She goes back to school and have to get used to us being gone again. It's going to be, I fear, an even bigger adjustment for her, let alone us. We're kind of freaking out just because we haven't been with her every second of the day today. Mm. We'll see.
But it's one of the blessings, though, because I'm sure if this pandemic had not gone down, how much time would you have spent with your 3-year-old?
Exactly. You forget how much you're actually at work. And I've spent the last 6 months, just outside with her, like every day. It's been paradise. And if it had been my choice, I would think I live the most paradisical blessed life. But because it's forced upon us, I'm like, this is the worst. And I'm totally anxiety ridden. But it's tons of time that I wouldn't have gotten with her otherwise. I'm so much closer to her than I think I would have been. Yeah, she's turning into a great little human being. But
amazing.
Yeah.
Do we have a picture? We'd throw a picture up maybe or something if we had one. But Mary isn't doing her job.
Camera, hold on. I'll be quick.
Oh yeah.
I was propping up my computer with my cell phone.
Oh great, we're getting an exclusive like People magazine like photo. Here it is. It's cost $50.
She's a crazy person. She's going to turn 4 next month, but she's wearing size like 6. Clothes. Well, you saw me with my beard, right? Like this was Will with like the huge beard. And that was I had my head shaved at that time too, but you can't really see her. There she is. That's the
look at that nugget. I love it. You've gone through a number of different hair motifs.
Look, I'll tell you what, man, when you're an actor, you're just a puppet in so many ways. And one of the ways in which you're a puppet is that you never get to control your own hairstyle, because whatever show you're in, whatever TV show you're working in, they say your hair needs to look like this. And you sign a contract literally to say, exactly, there it is. There it is.
Well played, Mary. Well played.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the show I was doing for 3 years, and my hair got down to the middle of my back. And it was not my choice. It was great. I loved it. But there it is again, and with the beard this time.
Mary is killing it. It's like an SNL episode in
Right,
here.
of the evolution of Will's hair. At any rate, this was for a thing I shot last week as well, because we decided it'd be cool if I had a mohawk. But yeah, just but it's a time where I can do whatever I want. So yeah, my beard was down to here. I was growing it out because my daughter wanted me to be a pirate for Halloween, and she declared this like in March. And so I was just growing it out. Well, I was actually growing it out for Assassins. I was going to do this production of Assassins down at Classic Stage. And then then COVID hit, and I just didn't shave it. There's about what I look like right now. Here it is, Assassins. Mary, you are on it.
She is really on it.
And she's like, okay, what's he going to say? And go. So I just kept growing my beard, and it just got stupidly long. And I just thought, for kitsch value, I just kept growing it. And then one day, my daughter said, "I'm tired of your beard, Dad." And I was like, "Oh, good. Me too." Zoop.
What a great father you are. I would not grow a beard for my child. I would not do it. I don't care what she said.
Also, everybody was doing it for the COVID reasons. Everyone was like, "That's my COVID beard." So it was what it was. And I was a lumberjack as well. We kind of live in the woods, and that storm came and all the trees fell over. So we were chopping up wood. I've literally been like hacking wood, making firewood with a 6-inch beard. So it was
It's very macho.
Very macho.
To the man show here now. I'm going to get all my musical theater stuff down for the background. So tell us where I've been asking all my guests, where were you when the virus hit the fan? Like, I know you were in rehearsals for Assassins. You remember the moment where you were like, oh shit, this is different. Something is, and I got this.
Yeah. I mean, we were in rehearsals for Assassins, and we were rehearsing at this studio on the Upper West Side. It's actually where we did that reading together prior to that. It's like a dance studio on West End Avenue in like 60th or something.
Oh, they had Movement Arts Center. Yes.
So we were rehearsing there, and there were kind of, people were starting to kind of grow concerned about the virus, and it hadn't really hit the fan yet. But because it was like a dance studio with like 100 kids coming in for ballet classes and sweating all over, and they're all stretching through the hallways, and it's very close proximity, I think we were growing a little more concerned about breathing space and whatnot. And then the day that Broadway closed, we were in the middle of rehearsal and, learning difficult Sondheim songs. And Judy Kuhn just goes, "Broadway's closed," in the middle of rehearsal. And everyone just like took a gasp. And then we were just like closed, like all of it. She's like, "Yeah, they called it. Broadway's shut down." And then literally our stage manager, as stage managers are prone to do, was like, "Guys, get back on task, please." Like, come on, this is earth-shattering, career-ending news. Can we have 10 seconds? And our stage manager was like, "Stop talking. Get back to work."
What's the number of that stage manager? That guy sounds pretty good. I'm gonna make sure I get that.
Oh, you know her.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I do. Yeah.
She's great. She's terrific.
Yeah. And what? So, did you spend the time in the city, out of the city? What have you been doing through all this period? Lots of Zoom readings. You did some stuff, which I want to talk about. But
yeah, I mean, it's a lot of fundraisers, a lot of Zoom meetings, and trying to. It honestly feels like we've spent a lot of time trying to raise money for everybody in the business, just like theater companies and charities and I just did one for the, what is it called usually, the equity Gypsy of the Year.
Oh yeah,
they're doing a Halloween thing normally. I'm spacing what it's normally called, but anyway, a lot of fundraisers, a lot of those kind of things, and we've just been at home. We've built, I think a lot of us have built a little weird studio in our attic so we can record. Audrey's been doing like books on tape and just trying to scrap and make $1 if possible. And that's not been very easy.
What's been the most random thing you've done over the last 6 months? The craziest, like you were, in a closet, whatever, and you're like, I can't believe I'm doing this right now. I'm on a Zoom meeting underneath a blanket, my 2-year-old, whatever.
It was it was this Broadway Cares thing that I just shot. It doesn't air until Halloween, but J. Armstrong Johnson conceived it and directed it. And I mean, I hope I'm not spoiling too much, but I literally was singing a famous show tune from an old Hollywood classic in the style of Marilyn Manson, and shooting a music video to that end, where I ended up in like full makeup with green hair and in a straight jacket. And I was just like, what is happening? Just crazy, weird stuff that we end up doing.
But this is what, and I wrote about this in the blog, just promoting this tonight, is what is really amazing about you. And to get very serious or very fanboyish, like, you're one of my favorite actors, as you know, because of your ability to do so many different things. I mean, you can be in hair and dance around and crazy. You can be Javert. You can be the bad guy. You can be the good guy. You can be the funny guy.
Go on, man. Go on.
I will. In fact, so the story, the reading. So here's the Ken Davenport, Will Swenson story of the last year. Will was doing a reading for me of Broadway Vacation, the next installment of the National Lampoon. You look just like Chevy Chase there. So you're doing this reading for me, which, by the way, he stepped in at the last second and saved our asses, because someone had to drop out, unfortunately. And you did it. And then at the end, someone comes up to me, my assistant comes up to me at the time and says, "Did you know that Will Swenson does an incredible Neil Diamond? It's like an industry legend." And I walked up to Will at the very last day of the reading and was like, "I heard you do Neil Diamond. Is that true?" And he was like, "Yeah." And Will ended up doing, as some of people may have read in the trades, this very small private, the first reading of the Neil Diamond project. So that's my long fanboy story of your very, very personal. When did acting start for you?
I grew up in a theater family. I'm like a 4th generation theater person. My grandma, this is actually an interesting story, so I'll tell the semi-long version of it. My grandma was born in Utah in 1908 and she was adopted and never found out who her adopted parents were. She was adopted by farmers, and she lived in West Valley, Salt Lake City, grew up on a farm, milking cows, literally growing crops, but just hated it and fell in love with drama and just did the school plays and just was crazy about it, wanted to sing and dance and started writing plays. And she met her husband and she was like, "I love doing this." And he was like, "That sounds good." And in the 40s, during the Second World War, they thought all these leading men are going off to war, so there's a shortage of leading men. Let's go to Los Angeles and get into the movies. So they went down there, and Grandpa was auditioning, and they said, "Let's just make our own theater." And they started a small theater in Glendale, which is still there. It's called the Glendale Center Theater. It's 75 years old. It's a community theater. And Grandma started writing plays, and then she got published by Samuel French, and she ended up writing 50 plays. And they're drawing room comedies. They're very of their time. But adorable, cute, a lot of them romantic comedies, 3-act comedies. And so I grew up, I was born in Utah, but then we moved to Glendale and grew up in that theater till I was 12. And then my parents said, "Let's go start our own theater in Salt Lake." So we moved to Salt Lake City and we started our own theater there. That theater is still there. My brother runs a theater in Provo. So I grew up in the theater. And then the cool part of this story is, no joke, 6 months ago, we'd been trying to find out our entire lives who my grandmother's biological parents were, because she just never knew.
Oh my God.
And I had a friend who happened to work at Ancestry.com. And I said, "Lisa, can you run this data? Because we've hit a brick wall." And she said, "Sure, send me the DNA." And so I spit in a vial or whatever it is. And she called me up and she was like, "No hits right away." And then a few months later, she called me back. She was like, "Okay, we've been digging and digging, doing crazy amounts of research. You're not going to believe this." The short answer to a long story that she had to tell, which was amazing, is that my grandma's biological mother was a Ziegfeld Follies girl.
You are kidding me.
Not even kidding you. Her father was a miner who owned coal and diamond mines. To be in Utah working in Park City, and his daughter got knocked up by a kid, by somebody in Utah, and so she got pregnant. Her mom said that's not going to work, so she pulled her out of Utah and took her to New York City, and she joined the Follies, dated one of the Vanderbilts, and it was like a huge tabloid scandal because they wrecked their car, and she said that he was trying to take advantage of her, and they were thinking that she was trying to take his money. Anyway, it's a long story, a super interesting story, but long story short, I'm a fourth generation performer.
Is there an inheritance in there for you somehow? Like I'm sure
there's no money in being a Follies girl, but she had an act called The Singleton Sisters with a girl who wasn't actually her sister. But it's just like, that is like evidence that theater is in the blood. I mean, my grandma like literally could not have been further away from the theater in Utah and just zoned in on it. Just couldn't have been more interested in it. And she actually was the daughter of a Follies girl.
If I can do that, see that frame back there, all those cards back there, those are the business cards of my great grandfather, Delbert Essex Davenport, who was a producer and a lyricist and the publicist for Douglas Fairbanks and Mary Pickford and all this crazy stuff. So,
your grandfather?
My great-grandfather.
Great-grandfather.
He was married.
So he was a producer like around that time?
Oh, yeah. In the 20s. He was a Ziegfeld wannabe. Who knows? He could be the guy that knocked up your grandmother. He was married 5 times. You never know.
Uncle Ken.
Yeah, exactly. So with I'm going to get all serious and actor's studio, like it does sound like a great subject.
Right? It absolutely sounds like the plot of a Broadway play.
And you write, you're a writer as well.
I do write. I have written a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, please write that story, says Jamie Woodard. Please write.
That was the first thing we thought. We were like, this sounds like a movie. This sounds too good to be true. It's crazy.
Amazing.
And also just like when they told me that story, I instantly just like bawled.
Oh.
No, I mean, just like the connection to it, because you feel it and like we love the arts so much, and to feel like the fact that it's sort of cosmically in us, it was crazy. And the fact that we just wanted to know where we came from.
Well, if you have that emotional reaction, be like, oh, look, everyone goes through these moments of like, especially now, every theater person is going, am I doing the right thing? Should I have been a lawyer? Should I have been a real estate broker, stockbroker, something safer so I can provide for my 2-year-old, 3, whatever it is, more? Yeah. And you get something like that happens, it goes, you're doing the right thing. Well, you're doing what you have no choice.
If we can weather the storm, man, it's just the other side. Get me to the other side. I just imagined the other night, I was just kind of daydreaming, and I imagined that first night back for the first time of like just the curtain going up. I'm getting teary even thinking about it. But imagining it just makes me well up, just thinking, getting back to that place is the goal, and God help us that we can all get there.
We'll get there. I think about that moment all the time. In fact, the first few episodes of this live stream, that's what I talked about a lot. It's just like, can you imagine? Can you imagine what it's going to be like?
Right.
People in the show.
I'm sure you've got a finger on that pulse better than just about anybody in town. Can you talk about what's the latest? Or I'm sure you have, and I'm boring your guess.
No, it's I'm hearing what has been on the street, which is there are some shows that are on sale that will appear in March. But it's going to slow roll, I think. I don't think we're not going to turn the lights on like at a theme park. It's not going to be like, hey, Broadway's open and like everyone's going to rush back.
I mean, are people even interested in like opening up at half capacity? Because that seems to sort of diffuse the purpose of what we do in the room.
So I wrote a blog about this very subject. I said, one, social distance doesn't work for the theater. Right. And because one, economically, New York City doesn't work. And two, the experience isn't the same.
Right.
But I have to tell you, even now, I'm like, well, maybe we should just try something. Maybe something just to figure it out and experiment and start, because we're going to have to, it's going to take a while for people to come back. So you want people to like start, it's like, warming up the stove before throwing in a couple of eggs. You got to
be a time process regardless so that people feel safe enough to come back.
Yeah. By the way, eggs, that's about all I can cook, which is why I use that, warming up the stove, which I'm not even sure that's the right way to cook them. But anyway, I think you get my point. How do you choose the roles that, with the diversity of the roles that you, from Javert to Berger to all this stuff, what attracts you to this stuff?
Well, I'll tell you, what I wish my answer is that I choose them carefully and I need to diversify and I'm desperate to stretch my creative boundaries. And while that's true in desire, as an actor, I think it's pretty few and far between the actors that actually can choose that and have that luxury financially. The real answer, and I think I can speak for like 80-90% of us, is that I take the gigs that I can get to try to pay rent. That said, there are times where you sort of have choices to make. And in this business, it's really common practice to get pigeonholed into, oh, he's the guy that can do this, or she's the girl that is the sexy girl. And, when I sort of kind of had a coming out party of sorts in this business, it was probably through hair. And so I think there was this idea, oh, he's the swarthy, hairy, whatever. Yeah, that guy that takes his shirt off on stage. So I think I was pretty interested in showing that I've got different skills than just doing that guy. So I knew that the very next thing that I did had to be sort of different. So luckily Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, came along, and that was a nice stretch from Berger in hair. So I got to show that color. And then I think I did a few things in between that. And then the next kind of big one that came along, I wanted to do something much, much more serious. And so Les Mis came along, and that showed a nice, stillness that I hadn't done in either of those two shows. And then as far as making choices, I just really wanted to start doing some more plays. Because I was just an acting major. I didn't really start to study singing until college, when I realized there's 4 musicals produced to every straight play. So I started paying attention to singing a little more. And I think I've done probably 3 musicals to every straight play that I've done. But that's changed a little bit over the years. I've started to do some more plays and some more film and TV. And so I just wanted to make sure that people knew that I wasn't just a singer, a musicals guy, that I've got some acting chops as well, and done some classical theater as well. So just trying to keep it interesting for one. I mean, if you're just the guy that plays the dumb stoner every single time, I think, what's the purpose of being an actor? We do this because we get to try on these different skins and tell these awesome different stories in different ways with different vocabulary and craft. So I mean, I've tried, but the short answer is, if you'll hire me, I will probably do the show for you.
And how do you find the vocabulary of these characters in this craft? What is your approach to each role the same, or does each different role require different process, research? What do you do?
I wish that I had a more locked in process for how I find folks, but it hasn't been. I feel like everything's been different for me, and I mean, sometimes it's much more of an outside in process. Sometimes you start with sort of this just feeling, you try to let that get into your body and your delivery, and then sometimes the language is the focus of the piece, and so you start with the words. I've started to get into using YouTube a lot as a resource. Just it's a resource that we just didn't used to have, but I was playing somebody with some mental problems recently, and just kind of went on YouTube and tried to look at schizophrenia and bipolar disorder, and there's just a treasure trove of interviews and behaviors that just things that wouldn't occur to you, and then there's just mannerisms, and you can just kind of just start with kind of just a thing, and then it turns into something else that might show up in the performance, and just people who kind of talk out of the top of their eyes or something. You just some little physicality that can then spark a whole energy that might inform the rest of the character. So I wish it was more locked in, but usually it's bits and pieces from over here and over here, and then every director is different, and then the tone and the genre of every piece is different. So you kind of pick up, I guess, sparks and suggestions from everybody around, and eventually it turns into something.
And you mentioned film and TV and working in that medium. Do you enjoy that more or less, the same? How is it different for you?
I enjoy it less. It's tricky. I love telling a story in order. the theater is so amazing because there's that electricity in the room. It's so immediate, and you get to tell the whole story every night. And then you get on a film set, and unless you're a part in the movie or the TV show that has a nice arc, generally that work, for me at least, half of the work that I'm done, I step in and I say, yeah, I don't know about that, Sammy. And then I'm done for the day. So it's not as fulfilling, and you shoot it out of order, and it's so technical because you have to hit this mark and be in that light, and you have to say it this way, and you can't say it too loud, and you have to hold the purple drink in your right hand and the red drink in your left hand, and if you forget, you screwed up the whole thing, and everybody's mad at you. So it's sort of like math for acting, and for that reason, I hate it. For the reason that it pays generally tons more than theater, I love it. But I'm a theater guy. I love being on the stage and everything that it affords.
Any roles that since the play stuff, you like the play stuff, but you do more musical, any classic play roles that you're dying to do?
Yeah. I want to do some more Shakespeare. I do Shakespeare, I think, well. Why
don't you go ahead and do Hamlet for us right now? We got a couple hours.
Why would an ass am I? That I, the son of a dear father murdered, prompted to my revenge by heaven and hell, must like a whore unpack my heart with words and fall a cursing like a very drab. Some of it's in there.
See, the antics. We got the antics.
I want to do, put it in the reel.
Put it in the reel. Just put on wear a hat. A hat.
I would love to do the Scottish play at some point, and my wife and I have also been talking about doing Antony and Cleopatra. I think that would be a ball. Musically, the only one on the list is Sweeney Todd. Like I love new stuff more than anything. But if I had to pick something that I really want to do that's in the canon, it's Sweeney Todd.
I mean, that would kill.
Dude,
I mean,
that part in that show. Oh, and it's right for my voice too. Just like,
yeah, it is. Do a little of that for us too, why don't you? Right now. So you mentioned Audra. Do you guys read? Does she coach you on auditions? Do you work together? You throw stuff?
You know, we've worked together a bit. We met working together, and then we did Moon for the Misbegotten up at Williamstown a few summers ago, which was amazing. I was going to say it was a ball, but Moon for the Misbegotten is not a ball. It's a incredibly heavy, depressing, beautiful play. And we've talked about doing things. She's so insanely in demand and so much more talented than I am that the idea of our schedules lining up and getting to do parts together is super tricky. I think we would, but yeah, I'm super lucky in that I have one of the world's best resources in my living room when I have questions. And, I'll throw her a scene and just go, for an audition or whatever, and just go, what do you think about this? And she'll always have the most amazing insight. And it's usually you're doing way too much. We'll calm down and just let the scene do the work. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But then we get to her putting me on tape, and I love her so much that I want to impress her with my great acting skills. And so we're doing putting me on tape, and I'm trying to act so hard and be amazing, and then we'll stop, and she'll go, yeah, okay, but and she'll have some great suggestion. And I'll be so mad that I just screwed that up. And she thinks that I hate her for giving a note that she's right about. And so our marriage has ended almost about 27 times with her putting me on tape. But I have to have her help because she's so much better than I am. So that's a weird aspect of being married to somebody that does your same job. Today, literally, Ken, I tested for a pilot, a new TV show. Last year that I almost got. I was this close to getting it, and I didn't. And then they called her up and offered her a part on the same show. So literally right before we were talking, she was on the production Zoom meeting for this TV show. And I had to sit there and listen to it.
I mean, it's its own television show. You should be writing this. Forget your grandmother's story. Write this. You
in the hotel room. I'm going to go out here and have a drink so I don't have to listen to the TV show I didn't get.
So that brings me to my last question, Will, which is a very difficult time for a lot of us. I mean, listen, you're a terrific guy, and you have smiles through all of it, and it's one of the reasons why I love working with you. But what advice what have you done to stay up and positive during this period? What advice do you have for all the people out there watching about how to continue to get through this as it goes on much longer than any of us thought?
Man, I wish I had the answer. I can talk about what I've done, but like I also have good friends who are struggling, man. It's such a rough time. And I will talk about what I've done, and it's worked okay for me, but I have the luxury of not having to stress too much because we're okay financially. And so many of us, like, our jobs are gone and we're on unemployment and we're living on like $600 a week, which in New York is like not even groceries. So I don't want to like talk about all the right things to do because I don't want to skim over the fact that this is just the worst. Mm-hmm. And if you're struggling, I don't know what to tell you other than we will all get through this somehow, and maybe we'll have different jobs. And maybe we'll have to have figured something else out. Certainly our art form is going to be a different animal than it was going into it. That said, I mean, I at the beginning, I was like, assuming the worst, thinking this is going to take a long time to get out of. So I with my therapist, I was like setting goals and like going, all right, well, try to I could write a play, but I don't have the discipline, and I have a 3-year-old at home. So I tried to do things that could incorporate her. So we've done a lot of outdoorsy things. We live in the woods, and so I've literally been like trying to work in wood, and I've been making outdoor benches and repaving our planter boxes and doing a lot of gardening and just like having stuff to do. And then we were supposed to do this cruise to Italy for one of the Playbill cruises. And I decided, all right, well, I have the time finally, and we're going to go to Italy because this thing will be over in a couple months, right? So I decided to learn Italian. So I got one of those apps and I went hardcore into the app. And then I've been listening to podcasts, and I could get by in Italian now. So like 6 months later, a little more than that, I'm pretty proficient with Italian.
Wow.
So not bad. I'm happy with it. I mean, I want to go to Italy desperately now, but that's going to be a little while. So, I mean, I've kept busy. I'm grateful that I have a 3-year-old because it's forced me to stay active. Because I think I spiral real quick once I get on Twitter and I click 3 times and I find 27 racists just shouting about how terrible people are. Anyway, that's been a challenge. I've been talking for a long time, but we'll get through it, man. We have to. We'll get through it, and we'll make some great shows together.
Yes, we will. And I can't thank you enough for being here and sharing this time with us, especially since it's your first night away from your 3-year-old since this began.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's just getting started.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we can keep chatting all night long. She won't mind. Enjoy your night. Thanks so much for joining us. And I have said this to everyone, but I'm saying it to you very specifically. I look forward to being in a rehearsal room with you again very, very soon.
From your mouth to God's ears, man. Very much looking forward to that.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us, Will. We'll see you very soon.
Thanks a lot, man.
Will Swenson, everybody. You got Shakespeare. You got Hamlet from Will Swenson, everybody. You're going to have to wait for the Sweeney Todd, though. Can't thank him enough for joining us tonight. Thanks to all of you for watching. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, please do us a favor. Will talked about there's a lot of people out there struggling right now, and a lot of them are theater makers. Remember, there's no curbside pickup for what we do. There's no takeout. There's no delivery. The theater has gone from 100 miles an hour to 0. So a lot of people are making 0 right now. The institution organization that can help them is the Actors Fund. So please do whatever you can. Support the Actors Fund. A few of you threw some stars at us as we were chatting there. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. If you can, the tip jar will remain open on my Facebook page throughout the week. So whenever you can, throw something in there. Some other things you can do. You can support Save Our Stages. Write your congressperson and tell them to sign on to Save Our Stages, which is the bill that we're hoping becomes part of the HEROES Act, the stimulus bill. that will then give some money to theater makers all over this country, from small to large, from 99-seat theaters and nonprofits to the big boys here on Broadway. It's going to support them all and keep them going. So go ahead, write your congressperson about that. What else is going on? I'm doing a webinar for those of you theater makers out there looking to get produced, looking to how to find a producer. It's the question I get asked the most. A bunch of people asked it even on my early live stream, so I decided to do something about it. It's my version of learning Italian. I did not learn Italian, but I put together this free webinar. It's about getting produced, how to get a producer for your show, even in a pandemic. Mary will throw the link in. It's totally free. Just join me. I'm going to yap for an hour and a half or so, probably about an hour, about strategies that I use to find producers and how I got my shows off the ground when I didn't know fancy people like Will Swenson. So sign up for that. And lastly, we end each episode with something to make you smile. This is a great organization. So we'll talk about raising money for lots of charities. And what's been a real blessing here is I've become aware of so many different charities that I didn't know about before. Here's a great one called Live and in Color, which is working very, very hard to support diversity in the arts. And they did a video of the telephone hour from Bye Bye Birdie. Bye Bye Birdie. So go ahead, watch this now. I'm going to sign off. You're not going to go anywhere because we're going to roll straight into it. Thanks so much. We'll see you next week with Leah Salonga. She's a gamer. She's got lots of tips for your favorite video game. Next week, 8 o'clock. See you then. Stay tuned for this video.
What's the story? Morning Glory. What's the word? Hummingbird. Have you heard about Hugo and Kim?
Did they really get pinned? Did she kiss them and cry? Did he pin the pin on? Or was he too shy? When I heard they got pinned, I was hoping they would. Now they're living at last.
He's
No one's
gone.
ready for good.
Hello, Mr. Hinkle. This is Kenji Kanagawa. Can I speak to Penelope
Is
and
it true about Kim?
Penelope
I just knew it somehow.
about the
I
prom?
was gonna write up.
Saturday?
I can't talk to you now. Going steady.
No, it matters.
Going steady.
It's crazy, man.
Going steady.
You know it.
It won't last.
Not at all. He's too thin.
She's too tall.
Hello, Mrs. Miller. This is Kenji Kanagawa. Can I speak to Deborah Sue?
Hiya, Hugo. Hiya, stupid. What you wanna go get paid?
Well, I heard they got hit.
Hey, you
I was hoping they would.
Lost your
Gotta live
marbles.
in the past.
Are you
Going steady
nerdy?
for.
Hello, Mrs. Gar. Finest charity home from school yet?
Did they really get pinned?
Going steady.
She saw him.
Going steady.
She
Now
dug
they're living
him.
at last. Going steady.
She nailed
Going steady
him.
for good.
You gotta go. That's the way to go.